So if you've watched any videos on saving or investing before, I'm sure you've heard people saying stop buying Starbucks coffees and make it at home instead. But instead, I'm here to tell you you can keep buying your expensive coffees. There are other ways to save money. So if that's refreshing to hear, make sure you do drop a like on this video, very much appreciated. Now just a quick caveat to that, let's just be clear, is making coffees at home gonna save you money? Is it a good idea? Yes, it probably is. And if you're someone who drinks 2 to 3 coffees a day, it's probably not a good idea to be getting all of them from Starbucks as well, so obviously that's to be considered. But if you're someone like me who enjoys a barista coffee 2 to 3 times a week, you should be able to enjoy that simple pleasure in life guilt-free. So instead of saving this 10 or 15 euro per week on Starbucks coffee, let's take a look at a couple of other ways in which you can save money. So the first one is shop around for things like your energy service provider, your broadband provider, home insurance, car insurance, mortgage rates, pretty much everything you can think of that you have an annual expense for. It's a good idea to take a look at these and find the best options possible. There are a lot of really great sites out there that make this super easy, so there's pretty much no excuse why you shouldn't do this. For example, last year with my car insurance, I got a quote from a provider. Then I went to one of these sites, which was bonkers.ie, which is an Irish comparison site. Not sponsored or anything, they're just a really good site that I like to use. Went through Bonkers and I ended up going with the same provider but for 20% less than they quoted me for the exact same insurance. So it just goes to show you the deals are out there, and doing things like this where you can save 20% on something that could cost you hundreds, this will save you a lot more money than worrying about your coffees every week. And I know some people are probably thinking the likes of switching your broadband provider is a nuisance, and that one especially is pretty annoying, or your TV provider, but if it's going to save you 200 or 300 over the next year, why not do it? So the next thing to do is take a look at your subscriptions and see if they're of any use to you or not. There may be some ones that have slipped through the cracks and you're no longer using. For example, you may have a Netflix account, a Disney Plus account, maybe an Amazon Prime Video account, and you may only be mainly using Netflix, or you may only be using Disney Plus, so there may not be a need for all three. Now don't get me wrong, if you're getting value out of all three, by all means keep them. Don't feel obliged to cut 15 euro out of your life every month, or whatever the cost may be, if it's going to take some enjoyment away from you. But the likelihood is that you have a lot of these streaming services and you don't really get the use out of them, so it could be a good idea there to pull back on them, or if you want to keep them, maybe find a friend to split the cost with, or a family member. And then with this newly freed up cash, why not invest it in something that will actually give you a return? And that's where our sponsor Seeking Alpha comes in today. Seeking Alpha have provided a great deal for the viewers of this channel here. For just $99, you can get an annual subscription to their premium service, which is $150 cheaper than what it normally costs. If you haven't heard of them before, they're a great resource which offers a lot of value to investors. For example, I'm a big fan of their daily newsletter, especially in these current market conditions. They bring a concise, clear view of everything that's happened over the last day and throughout the week in the stock market and in the economy. They also have a great portfolio tracking tool, which I find very useful as I use a couple of exchanges. And their website has a lot of really great resources like top analyst predictions. They also have charts for the best growth stocks, value stocks, dividend stocks. Really useful stuff over there. If you want to try out the service first, you can sign up for the free trial down in the description below as well. Okay, now moving on to the next step, and this is a big one. This one is paying down high interest debt. So what I would consider high interest debt is probably that 6, 7 or 8% loans, and obviously anything above that as well. But the likes of your mortgage, I wouldn't be in much of a hurry to actually pay that down. A good example of where this makes sense is I've come across people who have car loans at maybe 7, 8%, and let's say it's for 10,000 euro, and they're paying that off over a couple of years because it's manageable payments, but in their savings they have 12,000 euro, for example, so they could basically be paying that loan off and saving themselves that 8% interest rate. Because the savings that they have there are not earning them any interest, and at the same time they're paying to borrow someone else's money. So in this scenario, it would make sense to allocate the 10,000 to paying off that loan early, so you avoid a lot of the fees associated with that loan, and then with your other 2,000 leave yourself a bit of an emergency fund. Another example there, let's say for example you have a car loan for 8,000 and you have savings of 5,000, might be a good idea to pay 3,000 off that car loan and leave yourself with a bit of an emergency fund there to fall back on. Basically, aside from an emergency fund, it rarely makes sense to take out loans, especially at interest rates of 6, 7, 8+% when you have that money in your savings. Now, if you do have that money invested and you're confident you can make a higher return on your invested money than the banks will give you or the credit unions will give you for loaning out money, maybe that makes sense. But otherwise, if it's not invested and it's earning 0% interest, it very rarely makes sense. So for me, that's important to tackle that kind of debt. And then once that's cleared off, then repayments that you were making, you could look at investing then. If you're interested in getting started investing, I have a really great video on a beginner's guide to investing. So go ahead and check that video out if you're interested. And my final tip for today is try to earn more. And of course, that sounds very easy, easier said than done, but it's an important thing that should be considered. Let's take a scenario here. For example, let's say we have a 25-year-old currently earning 30,000 and they haven't gone to college before. Sure, 30,000 isn't a bad salary right now, but when they start to have children and more commitments, that 30,000 will start to feel like quite a small salary. So given someone in this position that doesn't believe that they have many career opportunities in that line of work, it could be a good idea to try invest in yourself here and give yourself more potentials for opportunities in areas that can earn you more money. For example, a lot of people are talking about learning to code because you can do this online quite easily if you're willing to put in the effort. And that's one way that you could potentially switch industry into a really high paying industry. It could all be self-taught, do some projects, get some experience. And while you may not be earning the big bucks straight away without the experience, if you continue to develop in that industry, there's a lot of room for growth. Otherwise, it might make sense to go to college or go back to college to get a degree in potentially a different area. And while this may seem like a waste of 4 years for someone who's already working, if you have a good degree of confidence that it will lead to more opportunities, it's probably a good idea to go back and get that degree and upskill in a different area. Because no matter what, then 4 years are going to go past anyway. So what position do you want yourself to be in when those 4 years come by? Still in the same job with no opportunities for growth, or instead you've taken some time to invest in yourself, reskill, and now you're in a career path that has more potential to grow. Essentially, don't be afraid to take some risks, especially if you're in this age profile and you don't have dependents like children or anyone that relies on you on your income. They're the times to take some risks, but of course it can be easier said than done. So just to summarize that point, the main thing is to try invest in yourself, give yourself more earning potential for the future. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy it and some of these tips that I've shared here today. Make sure you do go off and enjoy your barista coffees and not worry too much about that couple of euro. Out of all the tips today, I think the most important one is to check out something like that bonkers.ie, these comparison sites that can help you save a lot of money on these big expenses. And especially for them, bonus if you stay to the end of the video, if you're able to do it, try build these sinking funds is what they're called, where you pay annually instead of monthly because it normally works out cheaper. And that's for things such as the home or car insurance. But anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you do drop a like on the video and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in another video.